ask you, you said there that the law was changed in 2006 with regard to trusts. Can I ask you, was there much of a change there? What did that change
Well, there were a number of changes, and it was all really to do with how trusts were taxed and how assets entering trusts were taxed. And this is where, again, it's absolutely vital if you're thinking of setting up a trust or trusts that you go to the experts and get it done by the experts, because if they're not set up properly or if they're not administered properly, then yes, it can create problems and it can create unnecessary tax liabilities and so on. So you really need to deal with people like ourselves who know what we're doing. This is all we do. We specialise in wills and trusts and the tax planning surrounding the trusts. The actual changes that came in 2006 would take me about an hour to go through with you.
Right.
And they're fairly complex, and it would depend what type of trust you were using and so on. But clearly those are now changes that we have to take into account whenever we're doing planning with our clients, so we're fully aware of all of those. But there were all of the changes that are brought in to trust, and the change to trust are all to do with generating more revenue for the government. Right. The Inland Revenue generally don't like trusts because they don't make enough money from them, or they don't make any money from them. So what they've tried to do in 2006 was to make the trusts pay more tax. And again, if you don't know what you're doing, you could find yourself in a position where by using a trust you're actually increasing your tax liability, which wouldn't be a good thing. Trusts pay income tax, for example, at 50%, whereas you might be a basic rate taxpayer at the moment, or a high rate taxpayer. But if you placed an income producing asset into a trust, then the income that is generated from that asset, for example a buy-to-let property,
right,
the rental income would be taxed at 50%, the rate of the trust.
Right.
So unless you know what you're doing, clearly that wouldn't be a good idea at all to place that. So the way it would be done through our specialist strategies and trust planning, we would make sure, for example, that asset, although it is protected by the trust, the actual income from it isn't taxed at 50%. It would be taxed at your personal rate.
Right.
Yeah.
So obviously each different scenario has different sort of criteria that it's needed, and that's where you come in.
Correct.
Where you know all the different scenarios for the different.
Absolutely right. Yeah, I mean we have our own tax advisors in house, and you know they work in conjunction with our legal team. So any client scenarios that we get, we can run past the experts effectively and come back with an outlined solution for our clients to consider in terms of the strategies themselves and any potential tax liabilities or indeed tax savings, because it can be sometimes that you can place assets into trust that actually removes or dilutes considerably tax liabilities.
Now that would be more interesting.
Yeah, so most people are more interested in that, to be honest. But again, that's a different conversation altogether, you know.